Let's have a look at this bison calling shaman here. This is where the start of the story, I guess, takes place. And it's meant to be more the spiritual aspect of bison procurement. So it's not just a matter of hunting those animals. There's a lot of ceremonial, spiritual things that go along with it. This building, this hallway that we're standing in, is right on what we call a drive lane, which leads bison from out somewhere on that prairie landscape, and they're trying to focus them in one particular spot, just behind me here, where those animals would be stampeded over an escarpment, a little cliff face. What normally happens is they would prepare for about a month for this hunt to happen, and we're going to see some small little stone cairns out across the landscape that worked as kind of a funnel. Now it acts as a funnel because they converge on the actual drop-off point. So you might say, well, why would they spend all this time, a whole month, just preparing these cairns and getting ready? When you're out on the top of the prairie, you don't exactly know where that escarpment is. So they get scared, they run, they're heading towards the escarpment. They might see it coming, but it's the push of the animals behind the ones in front, and over they go. If you stampede them too early, bison are very agile, they'll escape, and of course the whole thing's a failure. As I said though, this all is under spiritual control, and this shaman figure is actually calling the bison towards the escarpment. So we're trying to mimic that. We're trying to show more traditional culture related to this actual procurement event. So what I would suggest is we go out and have a look at drive lines, some that we've mimicked. We've got some sculptures for you to see. And when we get out on the end, let's see if we can find some real live bison.
Tanse Honey Constant at Desegason, Pakta Hausagai Ganekochania, Ninote Nahiwan. Hello, my name is Honey Constant. I'm one of the senior guides here at Wanuskewin Heritage Park, and I am Plains Cree from Sturgeon Lake First Nation. My role here at Wanuskewin is to do a lot of the tours, so we're going to do that today. We are standing in the plaza of Wanuskewin, the front doors, and here we have a bunch of statues that tell the story of a bison jump. So whether you know it or not, the main doors actually line up with Newa Asiniak, which is Cree for 4 stones, which is a bison jump here at Wanuskewin. And what makes Wanuskewin unique is we have 2 known bison jumps, a bison pound, campsites, processing sites, hunting sites, and the most northerly known medicine wheel of all the plains. As well, it is home to all 7 indigenous culture groups of the northern plains that we can tell. So I'm super excited to talk to you more about that as we go along. So behind me are our statues, which have been created by Lloyd Panay, who is from Peepeeksies First Nation. And what they are telling you is the story of the bison jump. So the main part, of course, is our bison herd. So there's a bull behind me, and then a female and her calf. And what's interesting about bison behavior is they often take their cues from a female. I like to call her the queen bee, the matriarch. So that is very important when doing a successful jump. Now, there's other parts at play. So if you can see, there's actually stone piles off to the side. Those are our drive lines. And usually these are set up in a V-shaped formation near the edge of a hillside. One of the key players is the bison calf runner. Now the bison calf runner is a boy, and he is about 15 years old, and it was a huge honor to be picked into this role. Now, this 15-year-old boy is usually picked from the elders or their leaders of the culture group, and they're watching them from a very young age. You would want to find a little boy who is cunning, who is sneaky, who is fast, and who is very adept. So the bison calf runner on the day of the hunt, what he would have to do is cover himself head to toe with bison's fat, so he smelled like a bison. Bison have really good sense of smell and hearing, but very poor eyesight. So what else he would do is put the bison robe on with the horns, and he would imitate a bison calf. Now, what he would do to lure them here is he'd be outside of the herd and making that wounded calf call. So when those females herd, they're very motherly, very protective, and they'd follow. So that's how that luring process worked. And of course, there's a lot of different ways they lured the bison to the bison jump. But this is one of the ways that we tell it here at Wanuskewin. Another important role is when women would also stand at the stone cairns, they would be hiding, and at the right moment they would jump out and start making lots of noise. So our statue of the woman holding the piece of fabric, she's making lots of noise. Now, this part was very crucial. If you started scaring the bison too soon, they're able to turn around and leave and run as far as they can. But if you did it right on time, the bison's only reaction is to run fast as they can, as forward as they can, which is usually up to 60 kilometers an hour. So that is a quick story of the bison jump, and if you have any questions, let me know.
So these sculptures, again, are to mimic grasses, prairie grasses. It's hard to tell the story about the archaeology here and bison here without talking about grasslands. They're all, for me, they're all kind of mixed together. The plaque represents October 18th, 1987. Queen Elizabeth visited the park and designated it as a National Historic Site. And now, of course, we're in the throes to go for World Heritage designation through UNESCO. So this has now become a big international deal. So these sculptures, they're rock art. So they're supposed to be bison painted on a rock face. Somebody would paint that with their finger. So they don't exactly look like a bison, but they're not meant to. Where we're headed is about 850 meters from the front door of the building. And then, as you know, the jump is on the other side of the building. This is all one big site. It's all related. The drive lines, the cairns, the shaman, the actual jump off point.
So how big and heavy would you think the bison are?
Well, bulls, our bull is 2,000 pounds. So the cows generally go 1,600. If you get a really big one, maybe 1,800 pounds, but usually around 1,700 pounds. Yeah, here they come.
Oh, look at the little guys. Are those little yearlings, or are they the ones that were born in April?
No, they're about a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
And they won't be bred until next breeding season. So that'll be another year. We wouldn't breed them till they're 2.5. Bison don't actually, they're not like cattle. You have to, maintain them a lot. If they have water and they have feed and they got a little room to roam, they're happy as clams. You don't worry too much about big storms or anything like that. They're very self-sufficient. Anyway, here's the thing. We always had the vision, the idea, back in the elders in the early days, that we would like to have live bison here. About 5 years ago, we went into a renewal process for the park. We needed to fix our exhibits up. We wanted to expand the park. We were going to go for World Heritage designation, as I mentioned. And so part of that was to bring back live bison. So here are our new arrivals. We call these the Americans. These animals came from the United States. And of course the bull is up there in the lead, and there are 4 cows and 4 little calves. There's a real story to all of this. What we have here are 2 groups of animals that are descendants of those 2 last surviving herds, and we have both. The notion is this is a conservation herd. We're not interested in the meat business. This is for posterity. We are going to establish animals that are as close to 1870 as possible. So there's no cattle genes in these animals, no TB, no brucellosis. This is the last of the real deal. So you'll see they're hanging around that feeding trough now. They're wondering why there's no food in there, and they're going to go up to the water bowl. There's our bison manager. Yeah, he's not going to feed him. He doesn't have the feed bag. He's waiting for me to go join him after we're done, and then we'll feed him.
Hello.
Hi.
How are
Hi.
you?
Great.
Welcome to Wanuskewin. I'm Jenny.
Thank you.
And have you been here before?
No, I haven't.
Oh, we're
Ooh,
excited. You're in for a treat. Are you hungry?
Very.
Follow me.
Thank you.
From this table, you might even be able to see our bison herd if you look out the window by our patio.
Oh, I hope so.
Oh, this looks great. What kind of drink is this?
That's our Saskatoon berry iced tea lemonade.
That looks delicious.
I'll be right back with your Tatanka burger and Three Sisters salad.
Great, thank you.
Here's our Tatanka burger. Bison with smoked local cheddar, sage caramelized onions, chipotle aioli, a maple barbecue sauce, our Three Sisters salad of corn, beans, and squash with local greens, and a choke cherry vinaigrette with choke cherries that I picked right down by the Bison jump. And then harvest veg and sausage soup with whole wheat bannock was actually my great aunt's recipe. And then we have birch butter, so it's quite a concentrated, delicious flavor. Enjoy.
Thank you. The soup looks delicious. Look at how hearty that is.
That looks amazing. I might have to try it.
Here we are now at the base of the Wanuskewin bison jump. So this is where the bison would have landed when they were run over the jump, like we've talked about before, and how hundreds of animals would be run at a time over the edge of the jump as a way of hunting. And so this is where they would have landed, and this is actually an archaeology site we're standing on again. And at this site, when we excavated here in the 1980s, we found 2 layers of bison bone that were each about like 30 to 40 centimeters thick, where when archaeologists were digging, they were going through more bones than they were dirt. It was just crazy amounts of bones because so many bison had been run over the cliff. And it was a well-used jump and definitely something that would have brought people to the area. And part of what those bones in the ground have done is help all of these trees grow. So it may not look like something that you could run bison over right now, but that's because the bison don't live here anymore. And they don't roam through the valley and haven't in 150 years. So trees have been able to grow. And with all of the bones in the ground right here, the soil is really, really rich, so the trees can grow really big. And that's eroded the valley wall a little bit and made it less steep. So it doesn't look exactly like it would have. It's changed over time and these trees have grown, but it's because of all of the bones that are in the ground right here.
Yeah. And if you notice, because this whole entire area is kind of like its own little ecosystem compared to where we started our walk in. There's a lot of different plants that grow here too. So let's go over here. I don't want you to go into the stinging nettle, but I want to point out the stinging nettle. So this year it's grown quite tall, and it's this guy here. And normally if you were to play around in it, of course your hands are gonna get really red, really itchy, really painful actually. But everything again has a story and a way it's used. I've heard of someone, an older person who has arthritis, say that it has the exact opposite effect on their arthritis. So if I had arthritis in my wrist and it was all swollen and in pain, I could take the stinging nettle and slap it all the way around, and it'll actually take away the pain, take away the inflammation. But of course, I don't have arthritis and I have not personally tried that, so please don't do that yourself. What's also interesting is there's multiple uses. Gabe, who actually welcomed you to the park today at the front desk, I seen him one time when he was doing flint knapping and making arrows out of wood and everything around. He forgot his sinew, the string that he uses. So he walked into the bush, he used his palms from the bottom, and coming up, he picked off the leaves. And he said that his hands were tingling a little bit, but they weren't in pain. But what he did then was take the stem that was left and turn it into string right in front of me, which was pretty amazing. This is also can be turned into tea. So if you pick the leaves the same way that he did and let it dry, all of the oils and the spiky bits kind of fall off, and then you can turn it into tea that has a lot of iron. There's probably lots of other ways that it's used, but these are the ones that I know.
Thank you both for coming out and letting us teach you and learning so well and asking so many good questions.